Bishop, thank you so much. And greetings to yourself, Sister Millicent, and to the entire family. So appreciate this opportunity to be a part of this excellent morning's worship. And I'm glad I feel as though I'm in tune because, as you know from the theme, it's basically thanks. In fact, you could call it Mary Says Thanks. Now, if you are a mother, father, older brother, sister, uncle, aunt, cousin, grandparents, what's the rest? Godfather, godmother. You will know about this, won't you? What's the first words a baby learns to speak in baby language? No, toddler language. After ma and pa, it's usually thanks. We all know about that, don't we? You give a child something and you insist that they say thank you. And you're not going to give them another thing until they say thank you for that. Is it some kind of child brutality? Is it parents just venting their spleen on these poor kids? Or is it something far more dynamic than that? I think it is. I think what we're actually doing is more than teaching children good manners, ma, pa, thanks. I think it's actually inducting a child into the world of human relationships and how the wheels of human relationships turn. It turns on that very basic idea of gratitude. Here you are, Johnny. Here you are, Jane. Ta. And the ta, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Thank you. Opens like a whole world of human relationships to that child. That's what we're doing. It's more than teaching your child to be mannersable. It's actually taking them by their moral hand and leading them into a world of gratitude. And that's really important because gratitude is at the very center of human flourishing. I was at a brilliant launch of a new initiative called the Gratitude Initiative. It's not new, it's been around for a little while now. And it's led by a very good friend of mine, a guy called Germa Bishaw. And in that launch, he had some very special guests. Dr. Star Dagin, she heads up an organization called Star Leadership. Here's what she says: gratitude changes everything. And she says that because science has demonstrated that gratitude helps us to function better biologically. We're wired up. Our neurons are wired up in such a way that the expression of gratitude and the reception of gratitude actually makes us feel better and perform better. That's her second point. That gratitude is productive. They've done lots of researches where they showed that people who experienced or expressed gratitude, thank you, were more productive than those who just kind of turned up and did the job. So when we say thank you, thanks, when that child learns the language of thanks, they're actually being plugged into something which is really quite powerful. It's a God win-win arrangement. And here's the thing, you can't be grateful all by yourself. And you certainly can't be grateful to yourself. That's what we call narcissism. That's big-headed, slightly distorted behavior. Because gratitude is like a social contract with other people. It's something you bounce off other people. It's something you receive from other people. You can't be grateful all on your own, however happy you might feel about yourself. I remember some years ago, I was traveling with a working colleague, Juliet Fletcher. We were on our way to work. We were in a car and we were both, we came up to a junction. I was driving, we came up to a junction and there was a woman coming in the opposite direction, to us, and she was indicated that she wanted to turn right. So I signaled to her, go ahead. And she smiled, this gratitude smile. I kid you not. The smile came right in the car. It was like a flash of light just came right in the car. I thought it was me. I thought it was me, you know, man, woman thing. Be careful here, Joel. Then Juliet said to me, wow, did you feel that? That's right. We felt this woman's gratitude. Never came across her before, had no idea what her circumstances were, where she came from, where she was going, who she was. The only thing we knew about her that was that she engulfed us in this incredible human moment of gratitude. It was a flash which said, thank you. As simple as that, but as profound as that. Gerald Bishaw deserves to head up something called the Gratitude Initiative. He comes from Ethiopia, which Bishop Brown will be happy to hear about. And Germa escaped Ethiopia when it was having a very difficult time of civil war. He came to the UK by a very circuitous route. And when he came, broken, poor, little opportunities opened up to him. What he said he discovered in Britain was opportunities. So one day he tells a story of standing by a bus stop, I think it was, waiting for his friend to arrive. And next to him was a woman. She was a fairly well-to-do woman who started to complain about Britain, which we all do, don't we? After the weather, it's how do we beat up Britain? And as she poured out this litany of bad news about Britain, he said to her, well, actually, he said, I don't actually agree with you. And so she stops, look at this black guy, and says, what do you mean? And he said, well, you know, I'm sure there are things we can complain about, but that's not been entirely my experience of Britain. So I don't actually agree with you. Then he sort of rolled out to her all the things he felt about the UK, which made him very grateful to be here. I think it was the start of his own journey in ultimately starting something which was called the Gratitude Initiative. But he struck on something. It's one thing to complain, and there's always something to complain about. It's quite another thing to find those opportunities to be grateful, as Maureen was just reminding us of a while ago. And this is precisely what we experience in Mary's song of gratitude. We call it the Magnificat, Luke chapter 1, 46 to 56. Just such an incredible story. The context most of us will know because it's part of the Christmas story. In brief, there are two women, aren't there? One is Elizabeth. She's an older woman. She is basically past childbearing age. God visits her through her husband. She becomes pregnant. She is 6 months pregnant in hiding. She's a bit embarrassed to have a big belly when she's past it. And then her cousin Mary, a teenager, engaged to be married, not married yet, has also been told by the angel that she's going to have a baby. So one woman is past it and having a baby, the other one is not supposed to have one, and she's on the cards for a baby. Mary goes up, visits Elizabeth, and the two of them meet. We know the story. And there's this huge ignition of gratitude. Elizabeth tells her that she's highly favored among women. And then in response, Mary rolls out her own symphony of gratitude. This is gratitude in overdrive. And there are four elements of Mary's incredible song of gratitude, which we could probably focus on, really, because this is Mary's thanksgiving. You know about the book of Acts, don't you? ACTS. I once heard a black bishop who said that Acts represents active Christians terrorizing Satan. That's really brilliant, which I'd said it first. But here's another use of that acronym, and I came across this many years ago, and I found it a very great help in my private prayer and reflection. Acts. A, adoration. Start by adoring God, not for anything he's done, but just for who he is. Adoration. C, confession. Say to God, I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for having said that. I'm sorry for what I thought about so and so. Confession. T, thanksgiving. S, supplication. After you've adored God, after you have confessed, after you've said thanks, then make your supplications known unto God, as Paul tells us. Well, this is Mary diving into thanksgiving in this great hymn of praise. And the first focus on this in verses 46 to 49 is it's got a lot of me in it. And Mary said, my soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for he has been mindful of the humble state of his servants. For from now on, all generations will call me blessed, for the mighty one has done great things for me. Holy is his name. There's a lot of moi going on in Mary's song. She starts off with the focus on herself. Now, this is not egotism, ladies and gentlemen. If you think so, you've missed it. This is about human spirituality. This is what I think atheists don't get. That beyond me, there has to be something bigger. And this is the heart of the Christian faith, God and me. It's this amazing juxtaposition between the mighty one has done great things for me. This is the heart of Christianity. God in his glory, God in his power, God in his brilliant, God in his unbridled majesty touches me. That's it. That's it. It's not a God who has set the world in its own constellation and set things in motion. And like somebody who's designed something and left it and gone away and doesn't care about it anymore. No, this is God who runs everything, rules everything, is in charge of anything we can see from the strongest and most powerful telescope we have ever invented, still touching me. That's what Mary is absolutely bowled over by. And if you don't get this, you don't get the Christian faith. God has come to me. And if there's anything which should make us thankful and filled with gratitude, especially in this Advent season, it is precisely this: the big, majestic, uncontainable God has time for me, God and me. Listen, if you can't experience and express gratitude over this, you are in serious trouble. And so Mary's thankfulness and gratitude stems from this incredible idea that God has done great things for me. That should touch us in the high decibel count of worship when John Fisher and the band are in full steam ahead. And it should touch us when we're on our own, in the silence of the midnight, when you've got a lot to complain about. But you know what? There's a lot going wrong. COVID and all of that. Lost someone I love. But the mighty one has done great things for me. Me and God and gratitude. But it spills over into other people. 50 and 51. His mercy extends to those who fear him. From generation to generation, he has performed mighty deeds with his arm. That's why we're on a virtual worship service right now, because once you have embraced this environment of gratitude, you immediately recognize that you are in it with others. He extends mercy to those who fear him, even from one generation to the next. That's why it's nice to have churches with old people and middle-aged people and young people. By the way, if you're in your 40s, you might now count as middle-aged, I understand. Not trying to depress you, just letting you know. So we're in a multi-generational gratitude environment. He's extended his mercy, not just to me, but look at the other people. Look at the other people around me who God has blessed. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I am in church and worship is happening, I love to watch other people. I love to watch other people. I love the thought of a teenager in church, hands raised, expressing gratitude to God, and thinking, I wonder what that's about. What's going on in this young person's life? I love to watch people who have come through difficult times. You know it because you're their pastor. You know it because they're your friend. You know it because you stayed up late with them on the telephone call on Saturday night. And then Sunday you saw them in God's house. And you think, yeah, they know what I know about God. And we're in this together. That's why the Bible says, don't forsake the assembling of yourself together. Yeah, church can sometimes be better. Yeah, some things could have been done more polished, or that person could have talked for a lot less, whatever. But do not forsake the coming together, because there's something about this reinforcing of God's goodness in other people around us. His mercy extends to those who fear him, even the person over there who I can't quite get on with, and I really want to be locked in a space capsule with them on the way to Mars. But that person has also experienced God's goodness. And even though we don't get along, it's very obvious that God gets along okay with her. So why don't I realize that God, the mighty one, has touched me, but he's also touched other people around me. This is the edifice of gratitude. This is the environment of thanksgiving in which me and God is extended to me and other people as well. But I like this too, that gratitude leads to an element of resilience and resistance against bad stuff. He has scattered those who are proud in their innermost thought. And he has brought down rulers from their thrones. He has lifted up the humble, filled the hungry with good things, and he has sent the rich scarpering away. Doesn't say scarpering, but I think it sounds good. Gratitude doesn't end up in platitudes, nice Christian language, which ignores the bad in the world, which ignores injustice. We give thanks with our eyes wide open to injustice and disparity, because we realize that God has always been on the side of the poor. Hey, do not mistake a worshiping person for a pushover. Do not mistake the person filled with gratitude in your office or in your family or in your church with an easy number to bully, with somebody who is politically naive and has no idea what's going on around them. They're always with their heads in the cloud, waving a tambourine and speaking in tongues. No, that's a naive person. That's not someone filled with gratitude, because gratitude keeps us alert to what's going on around us. We worship with our eyes wide open. Miroslav Volf is a brilliant theologian, was one of the guest speakers at this recent Gratitude Initiative launch. Here's what he said. In gratitude, there is also room for complaint. I like that. Gratitude and complaint. That we know things need fixing. We are aware that all around us, things are not what they are meant to be. And Mary's song of gratitude also admits and recognizes this. Advent means God has come to save his people from their sins. But in Mary's thanksgiving, he has also come to put the world to right. That's why we worship and protest. That's why we worship and support causes which defend those who are vulnerable. That's why we give thanks and then write off our letters to our MPs to say, this needs fixing. That's why we worship and we have some views about the Windrush scandal. We don't give God thanks in political ignorance. We don't give God thanks oblivious to the evil in our world. We don't do gratitude in an attitude of oblivion. We worship, we say thanks, we adore with our eyes wide open. And here is this teenager in the midst of an oppressive Roman regime saying, the mighty one has done great things for me. And he has extended this from one generation to the next. And here I am, a teenager experiencing oppression, who also recognizes that God scatters the proud. He brings down rulers. He sends the rich away empty. He fills the hungry with good things. That God is still a God of justice. And while he is busy blessing me, he's not ignoring those who are in trouble. And so Mary's thanksgiving has an ever-present eye on what needs fixing now. Here is the last bit of Mary's brilliant song of thanksgiving. He has helped his servant Israel, remembering to be merciful to Abraham and his descendants forever, just as he promised our ancestors. I'm really drawn by this, brothers and sisters. There's a thing about Jewish history that it always remembers its history. Have a look at any of the sermons in the book of Acts that you'll come across, whether it's Paul or Peter or Stephen preaching. They always go back. They rehearse the history. The history was fundamental to them. And their present only made sense in relation to their past, their corporate past as the people of God. It's one of the great strengths of Judaism, frankly. To Abraham and his descendants forever. So, gratitude for the past promises, which outlasts brutality, is important. You got to remember, when Mary is reflecting on the past and the promises made to her descendants, she's standing under Roman occupation. But she's also saying that the promise to Abraham and Isaac and the patriarchs was bigger than the disaster of the Exodus, bigger than the disaster In Babylon, by the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept. How can we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? That's how painful it was. And it's bigger than present Roman occupation and oppression. And here is why all of these promises, which have endured oppression, slavery, estrangement, and current oppression, is now fulfilled in a teenage girl. Wow, I say. God is about to fulfill his promises through me. The promise he has given me is the promise which has endured opposition and oppression and hostility. A hostile environment, dare we say. And that promise is being fulfilled now in me. Many of us in the service today are a part of what folks call the transatlantic slave trade. 20 million Black people caught up in that over a couple of 100 years. The lynching tree, the Windrush scandal, name it. The disparity in education, the overrepresentation in the criminal justice system, the overrepresentation in mental health institutions, the stop and search. You can add to the list. If you come from a different ethnic background, add your list. But the possibility we need to look at now in Thanksgiving is that God still has the capacity to fulfill and make right the sufferings of the past through us. Yes, us. That's why we don't want our teenage kids getting destroyed with anger. We want them to relocate themselves in a place of gratitude. We want them to recover a sense of thanksgiving and what God is still able to do in their lives. That's why the church comes to bring its witness in the midst of disparity and discrimination. That's why the church rolls up with thanksgiving in the middle of oppression, because we know that in us, in our thanksgiving, in our praise and worship, God is fulfilling something powerful through us. That, as he said to Abraham, in you will all the families of the earth be blessed. And we say, that's me. That's why Mary gave thanks. That's why we give thanks. Mary said thanks because she knew that gratitude was better than bitterness, and that people who practice gratitude are strong because they know what God has done, they know what he's doing now, and they know what he will do in you.